Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial, which will be on uploading images to Cloudinary from a Django application. Alright, so today, like I said, I'm going to show you how you can upload your images to Cloudinary from Django. You'll then be able to serve your images in a production-based environment from Cloudinary. So just a little bit of information about Cloudinary. So it's basically an end-to-end image and video service provider for web and mobile-based applications. So the focus is quite varied from handling image and video uploads straight to storage management. So it's an alternative to Amazon S3, you could say. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch and create a mini project here. So I'm just going to set up a basic Django project, then I'll create a basic app, create a view, organize our templates, etc., and get everything ready to view our images from Cloudinary once they are hosted. So like I've done before in my videos, I will add chapters so you can skip ahead if you feel there's a section that would be more appropriate for you. So just keep that in mind, all right? Right, so let's get started. So I'm going to just set up a basic Django project. Now, of course, I have my own style, so I'm just going to open up the CMD. All right, you can, of course, use your own method in terms of starting your Django application. So you can choose to follow me or use your own method. All right, so what I like to do is first of all just open up my CMD, just clear everything by typing CLS. And then what I like to do is just create a base directory here on my desktop. So I'm just going to say new folder and I'm going to call it dev, very simple. And in dev, it's going to house my Django project and my virtual environment. So what we can do is cd into dev. So I'm going to say cd desktop and then into dev. Perfect. And the next thing that you want to do is you want to globally install your virtual env package. So that would be pip install virtual env. So this is one of the few packages that you'll install globally in your system, since it's strongly encouraged to rather install packages in a virtual environment. But in order to do that, you need to at least install this virtual env package globally first of all. So we can install that globally on our system. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Right, so what we can do now in our dev directory is we can go ahead and we can create our virtual environment. So I'm going to now say virtual env VNV. So this is what I'm calling my virtual environment, VNV. You can call it anything that you want, or ENV, anything that you want, and then you can press enter. Okay, it will take a moment, so let's just wait for that to set up accordingly. And then we can, of course, move on from there. So let's just give it a moment. There we go. So it's all set up. Perfect. Let's clear this up. So CLS is a command we can use just to clear everything up. And then within dev, we can type venv /scripts /activate. There we go. Our virtual environment is activated. Great. Now we can open this dev directory here to actually see our virtual environment, and there it is in place. Right, so what we want to do now is we want to say pip list, and this is just going to show a list of all the packages within our virtual environment here itself. Okay, so go ahead and just say pip list. Okay, and there we go, pip setup tools wheel, great. Okay, perfect, that is as it should be. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to install Django within our virtual environment here. So we can just say pip install Django. Okay, so go ahead and install Django in your virtual environment. Now what's going to happen is, of course, Django is going to grab Django's package as well as sub packages. As you can see, SQL parse, TZ data, etc. These are alternate packages that are coupled with the Django package that will also be installed. Now this can take a few minutes, so I'm just going to pause the video, and then once it's been installed, we can move on from there. Right, so we can see that Django was installed successfully. Perfect, so we can now type pip list. And let's see if it's in our virtual environment. There it is, Django 4.1.7. Great, so we have it in our virtual environment as it should be. All right, perfect. All right, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and ensure that our virtual environment is active. And now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and actually start a Django project. So to do that, you can say Django-admin start project, and I'm going to call mine elevate. You can call yours anything that you wish. So give your project a name. Great, so it's been created. Perfect. Now what we can do is we can open up dev, and here we'll be able to see our virtual environment here and also our project here, our Django project Elevate. Now what we can do is we can open this in an IDE or a text editor, etc. So I would recommend using Visual Studio Code, for example. So I have it here on my computer. So just open up a text editor. Okay, so automatically it should open up. If for some reason it doesn't, you can just say File, Open Folder, and then you can just search for your top level directory here, select it, and let's just add some space here, and now we can see that we have our project Elevate and our virtual environment as well. Great. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and just run our server. So you just want to head over to the correct directory. So you're in dev at the moment, so we just want to head into Elevate now. So we can just say cd elevate and cls, just clear that up. So now we'll be able to call our manage.py file here. So that is the whole point of changing the directory here accordingly. So now we can just say python manage.py run server. So go ahead and run that. There we go. Okay, so we can see our server is now up and running at the following link here. So we can just head over to that link, and there we go. So we can now see on localhost here our Django project was installed successfully and everything's working perfectly as it should. Perfect. All right, so you've got all of that set and ready to go. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to create an app. Okay, so since we are dealing with images, I think a good name would be perhaps photo. Okay, so what we can do is we can head over to our terminal. Now, just something I want to mention, you don't have to use the CMD, that's just my preference in order to make the viewing experience on my video tutorials clearer for you. You can, however, go ahead and use the Visual Studio Code terminal as well. It's really up to you. So you can literally click on the toggle panel option here at the top, and you can go ahead and run your commands here as well. Okay, all you would need to do is turn on your virtual environment. So for example, you can just activate it. Okay, head on over to your project, and here you can also type in commands. This is an alternative that you can also use. The choice is yours. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, all right, so let's carry on. So we were creating our app. So let's stop our server. So you can say Control-C. And we want to create a Django app, so I'm going to say Django-admin start app, and I'm going to call it link. No, I'm going to call it photo. Yeah, we're going to call it photo. So we can just create an app called photo. There we go. So we can open our project here, Elevate, and here is photo. This is our app. Great. So all we need to do now is we need to configure our app in settings.py. So you can head over to your project settings.py file. And we can just remove these comments, quite annoying actually. And you can scroll down to installed apps right here. And all I want you guys to do is just add in the app that you created. So in our case, we created an app called Photo. So I'm just going to say Photo. And just be sure to add a comment at the end there just to ensure there aren't any problems. So what you can do now is go ahead and run your server. So python manage.py run server. There we go. Go ahead and refresh your page. Perfect, there we have it. Great. All right, so that's working nicely. Now another thing here, it says we have 18 unapplied migrations. So what we can do is go ahead and apply those default database migrations that we need to do for these default apps here. So what you can do is just stop your server, and you can run python manage.py migrate. So we want to migrate all the database files for those default apps, and there we have it. So everything has been migrated. So if we were to go ahead and run python manage.py run server, you will now see that we can see we don't have that message anymore, and all of our migrations have been made. And if we were to refresh the page, everything is still working perfectly as it should. All right, so that's that part out of the way. All right, so make sure you've created your Django app and that you've also gone ahead and you've made your initial database migrations accordingly. Right. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to create a view and organize our templates in order to later view our images. So what we can do is, first of all, in our app, so mine is photo, I just want to create a urls.py file here. So I'm going to right click on it, say new file, I'm going to say urls.py. Okay, so make sure you add this to your app itself, the one that you just created, that's fine. And we want to configure this urls.py file here with our main urls.py file in our Django project here. So what I'm going to do under Elevate here, I'm just going to copy this and move it across. Okay, so we can see this is the main URL configuration for our Django project, and this is going to be the set of URLs for that particular app. Okay, so what you want to do, just remove these comments, of course. And what we can go ahead and do is we can just set up the same sort of structure that we have in urls.py elevate here for our photo urls.py. So we need the same things such as the path, because we want to set URLs and this URL patterns structure. So we can first of all copy the following here from our elevate project here and paste that in accordingly. And we also need this URL pattern structure as well to set our own URLs for this photo app itself. Okay, so go ahead and add that structure. All right, now the next thing you want to do is you want to include all of the URLs here that you define within your main urls.py file here in Elevate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to say pass, and I'm just going to leave it as an empty string here. And we need to make use of the include function, so we can just add it next to pass here, and we can just say include. And we want to include all the URLs that we define within our photo app here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and say include, and within parentheses, we can just simply put photo.urls. Okay, so you can just say photo.urls. And just be sure to add a comma at the end there. All right, so everything will be now connected accordingly with our urls.py file here as it should be. All right, so make sure you've connected that up accordingly. So that's it here for the main urls.py configuration here. That's perfectly fine. So we can now go ahead and close this. All right, so now in urls.py, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up our templates and also set up the first URL here accordingly. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and just simply create our templates. So we're going to use app level based templates, not the project based level templates. So what I mean by that is we're not going to go ahead and go to settings and define the templates here under template DIRs. Okay, I don't like that way of doing it. I prefer to create it on app level. So to do that, what we can do is here under photo, our app photo, we can right click. And what I like to do is I like to go ahead and say new folder, and I like to go ahead and say templates. Okay. And what we can do then is to ensure we have namespace protection, you can say new folder under templates, and you want to call it the same name as the app. So I'm going to say photo. And here under photo, we can create a new file, and I'm going to call this, let's say, index.html, so something very basic. And we can define it like that. So that's how you can define app level based templates. So here under index.html, I'm just going to add a tag here that says Cloudinary images down below. So something very simple, just keep it simple and basic. Something memorable would be best. So Cloudinary images down below. Okay, now we need to connect this index.html file with our URLs and our views. So let's open our views here next to it so we can see everything correctly. So our URLs need to consist now of our views, which are connected to our HTML template. So what you can do here in your URLs, first of all, is you need to connect it to your views.py file. So to do that, here up top, you can just simply go ahead and say from.import views. So now we'll be able to import the views file here accordingly. Right. Now what we can do here under views is we can go ahead and create our basic view. So it's going to be def, and we can call it index. We need to pass in the request object, and now we can return render, and we want to return this index.html file now. So here what we can do is, in quotes, we need to reference the directory accordingly. So we can reference it to photo, because templates automatically will be recognized by Django, so you don't need to put that here. You can just skip to photo. Okay, so you can say photo, and you can put /, and here we have index.html, so you can just put here in quotes index, .html like so. So you're just referencing it accordingly, and that's how you can create the view. Now we can reference this view in our urls.py file. So all you would have to do is you would have to say pass, and I'm going to set this as the home page, so I'm just going to put empty quotes, and then I'm going to say views.index, and the name attribute I'm going to just set to blank, just like so. Okay, so it's going to now connect to our index.html file accordingly. So make sure you've got this all set and into place. Now what you can do is you can just rerun your server, so it's expected to break because we had it running. There we have it. Now if we head over to our application and refresh, there we go, Cloudinary images down below. All right, so just make sure you've got your basic template and directory structure set, because we're going to use this index.html file later to render and output all of the images from Cloudinary that have been served accordingly. All right, so make sure you've got this directory and structure in place. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to set up a free Cloudinary account. So we can head over to Cloudinary here. So don't worry, as always, I'll attach the link in the description below. And what you can do is you can go ahead and you can sign up for free right here by this big red button. So you can say sign up for free. Okay, so you can choose how you want to sign up. You can sign up as email, Google, GitHub, etc. So I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to say sign up as email. Okay, and you can go ahead and enter in your name. So I'm just going to just put my name, so Arno. And then I'm just going to put in the email. So you can just add in your email here. So I'm just going to use a dummy email that I created. So I'm just going to create a dummy email. All right, something random. And you can add in a password. Okay, all right, and just say you're not a robot, of course. All right, and the next thing you can do afterwards is go ahead and say get started now. So just click on that. Okay, just give it a moment. Okay, so now it's going to prompt you for email verification. So it's going to send a verification email to your email, the email that you entered in. So you can head over to your email, and you can go ahead and click on the email that's here. Okay, so it's quite strange what you need to do here. So it's quite unusual. So you need to sign in to validate your email address, which is quite unusual. But anyway, let's go ahead and click on that. So sign in to validate your email address. So you can click on the link that, or the button there. Now, if for some reason that button doesn't redirect you, and it seems like it's not doing in my case here, what you can of course do is, oh, there, it's working actually. Okay, so it does take some time, it seems. Okay, and then it's just going to prompt you for some questions here. So how would you best describe yourself? We can say developer, continue. And we can just say, the first one. Okay, so these don't matter. These are just this is just a basic survey. All right, there we go. So that seems to be it, actually. So we are now signed in accordingly. We can just close this prompt here. So we are now in our account. So what you can do here on the left, you can just click on dashboard. And as you can see here, you are now logged into your account. Now, something I do warn you, please make sure you keep everything a secret. Well, obviously our API key is a secret here. So like always, just follow good practices and don't share any of your credentials with anyone. I know most of you won't, but there's always one or two of you that might accidentally do this. So just make sure you keep everything safe. So something I was mentioning earlier on, if for some reason this button doesn't work, so as Cloudinary points out here, you can just go ahead and click on the link down below here to head over to the verification page. Okay, just also be aware you'll have 24 hours to do that. All right. So I believe we can just refresh that page. Okay. All right, there we go. So everything's working fine. So make sure you've created your Cloudinary account and that you're all logged in accordingly. So I just want to close these access links. So you should now have your Django application here on the left. And let's just refresh. You should be signed into your Cloudinary account here. And the best place is to click on the dashboard here. All right, and just some extra verification, just double check that you are in fact logged in with that email that you created on your account. You'll see it here in the bottom left. All right, so that's it for creating a free Cloudinary account. So simple, easy, and straightforward. Right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and set up Cloudinary with our Django application. So what we can do is install the following package, which is Cloudinary here. So the Python and Django SDK for Cloudinary. So you can also read a bit more about it here. So the basic general idea here is to use this package to help us integrate Django with Cloudinary. Of course, I'll also add this in the description below so you can read a little bit more about it along with the homepage here, and you can just read a bit more about it. Okay, so what we can do is we can install this package. So in your virtual environment, so turn off your server if it's running. So make sure you're in your virtual environment and you want to just install Cloudinary. Go ahead and paste that in. Okay, just give it a moment. There we go. Now verification time, type in pip list. So it's always good to double check that you've installed your packages. It may be a bit tedious, but you'll be surprised at how many times you can install a package accidentally globally. So here it is, Cloudinary, perfect. Right, we're good to go there. Right, so now that we've installed Cloudinary, we can now go ahead and add it to our list of installed apps. So you can now head over to your application. So let's close all of these here. Okay, and to start from scratch, you want to head over to your settings.py file. And here under installed apps, you want to add in the Cloudinary app here. So here you can just put in Cloudinary. And remember to add in a comma there, so be sure to do that. We also need to include Cloudinary's Python classes in settings.py to handle the uploads and integrate the API of Cloudinary. So you can add this right here at the top. I'm going to add it here. I'll add in a comment here. So Cloudinary imports. So this also needs to be in the settings.py file. It's a little bit unorthodox, but that's just how they prefer. So it will be import Cloudinary. Okay, and then you're going to say import cloudinary.uploader, and you're going to say import cloudinary.api. Okay, so make sure you've added those imports accordingly. All right, so what we can go ahead and do now is we can just make our migrations. So let's just ensure we have those migrations set. So what you can do is you can go ahead and open up your application and you can say Python manage.py, and I always prefer to say migrations just in case. So just run that first. You don't actually need to do that unless you're creating a model, but just good practice to get into the habit. And we can now say migrate. Okay, no migrations, great. Okay, sometimes Cloudinary doesn't require you to actually migrate anything. It just depends on the package version, etc. So just keep that in mind. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we need to start to configure Cloudinary with our Django application. So in order for us to use the Cloudinary Django library, we have to configure our cloud name, API key, and API secret. So you can see this if you head over to your dashboard here on Cloudinary. So just click on your dashboard and you'll see here the cloud name, the API key, and the API secret. Okay, so this API key and API secret is very much like in AWS, where you get your AWS access key ID and your AWS secret access key ID. So make sure you don't share them with anyone, of course. So these are our account specific configuration credentials, which are situated on the dashboard page of our account console on Cloudinary. So we can now go ahead and configure this accordingly. So what you want to do is in your settings.py file here, we can find a place to do it. Let's choose the bottom here, just for clarity. So I'm going to say Cloudinary-Django integration. All right, so what we can do here is we can start off very simple and we can just create the config here. So we'll start off with cloudinary.config, and in parentheses you want to set a few things. So the first thing you want to set is your cloud name. So we'll have cloud name. Okay, add a quote there, and then we will have API key. Okay, don't worry, this will be clear now, and we'll have the API secret. Okay, so all we need to do now is configure the cloud name, our API key, and our API secret. Okay, so what you can do is head on back to Cloudinary and our cloud name. So we don't need to copy it like that. We can just copy using these pads here. So you can copy cloud name, add that in, API key, add that in, and API secret, copy that, add that in, just like so. So go ahead and add in the following. Now, like I said, it's important to ensure that you make use of environment variables, so just keep that in mind, very important. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is go ahead and create a model and make use of the Cloudinary field that is provided within the Cloudinary package. So you can close settings.py and you can now open your app. So in my case, it was called photo, and you can open up your models.py file here. Now we need to make use of the Cloudinary field in order to ensure that our images are served by Cloudinary itself. So here at the top, you can just say from cloudinary.models import Cloudinary field. All right, so now you can go ahead and create your model class. So here I'm going to say class, and I'm just going to call it library. Okay, so like a library of images. Okay, you can name it anything that you want. It's really up to you. So I'm going to, in my library, just ensure that I'm making use of Django models. So I'm going to inherit it. So I'm going to say models.model, add in the colon. Now we can go ahead and just say title. I'm just going to name some attributes here or fields, and I'm just going to name a title for my image, and I'm going to say models.char field max length is 100. Then a description. I'm going to say models.char field max length equals 255. Now, of course, you don't need to explicitly follow as I do. It's really up to you how you want to go ahead with this. And then we need an attribute for our image itself. And here we're going to use the Cloudinary field, and we're going to pass in image. All right. So make sure you go ahead and set that up accordingly. Next thing that we can do is we can go ahead and we can make our migrations here for our model class. So in our terminal, you can just go ahead and say Python manage.py, and we want to make migrations here. So let's prep this model for migration. Right, it's been created. Now we can migrate it to our default database. There we go. Perfect. So it's now been created. Nice. Now the next thing we can do is we can go ahead and register this model in admin.py. So in your admin.py here, we can then just add some space, and you want to just import your models file. So you can just say from .models import and library. So importing library, which is the name of our model class here. And then we can go ahead and register this model so that we can see it in our Django admin page. So we can say admin.site, okay, .register, and we can pass in that model name itself. Right, perfect. So make sure you registered your model. Now to test all of this, we would need to create a super user, navigate to our Django admin page, and then test it from there. So that's what we're going to have to do. So what you can do is run the following command, which is python manage.py, and you want to say create super user. Okay. Right, and I'm just going to call it admin, leave the email blank, and just add in a password. And again, perfect, the super is created. Now you want to go ahead and run your server now. So we'll be able to now navigate to our admin page. So let's just run that. Perfect. Now you want to head over to your homepage and head over to admin. Now all you need to do is enter in your admin credentials that you just created. So go ahead and add that in to your username and your password. All right. So once you've provided your credentials, you can go ahead and log in. All right, and there we go. We can see our app photo. So that was the app that we created, and under that we have our registered model that we created earlier on, which is library, and there it is. So you can click on it, and if we say add library here, so we can technically add images to our library. So first of all, we can do a small test. So I'm going to just provide some detail. So here I'm going to say shark, okay, and the description here, let's just say lives in the sea. Okay, so something very simple, and we can assign an image. So I'm just going to choose an image here. So get an image ready. So I have 2 images of sharks here. So we can just open it, and we can just say save. There we go. So we can see that object was saved accordingly. So we can click on our object here, and we can see it's now situated here according to this link here. So what you can do is right click and open that link in another tab. and you can see it's being rendered or hosted from Cloudinary. So our image is now in a production environment from Cloudinary. Now we can close this up and we can go to Cloudinary here. And what we can do is we can head over to our media library here. Okay, and you can see that our image is right here. Okay, now I don't want you guys to worry or stress. Okay, these are all default assets here. Okay, so you can delete the rest of these here. Okay, this is just the default images that Cloudinary provides you with. It won't actually appear in the application, just the ones that you've configured. But here we have our image here hosted from Cloudinary itself. Okay, now we can do another test. Let's add a second one. So you can head over to library, add library. Okay, and we can just, for example, say shark 2 lives in the sea. So just something random, choose a file and choose another shark and save it. Okay, and library object 2, and you can see it's now serving through a new link our image, and there we have it. Perfect. We can head on back, refresh your page, and just give it a moment. And we can see now it's serving the second asset here. So the two images are now served from Cloudinary itself, as you can see. Perfect, so that's working nicely. Now the next thing that we would need to do is we need to adjust our view, organize our template in order to view our images, okay, in our Django application. So what we can do is just head on back to where we were before. So we can just go on back to our account. There we go, to our dashboard. Okay, there we go. All right, so here we can just now log out of the Django admin here. Okay. Okay, so Cloudinary images down below. So this is where we want to add it. So we want to render it out. So we can close Django admin models here. Now, of course, when it comes to the model name here, you can change it to anything you want. My idea in my vision here was to call it library because it's the library of images per se. So you can change that. Okay, so what you can do now is you can head over to your views.py file, and we want to go ahead and we want to loop through our model. So we can actually open models.py again. Let's see, it's called library. So what we can essentially do is import that model in our views.py file here. So remember, we're in our photo app views.py, and you can go ahead and just say from.models import library. And then what we want to do, I'll add some comments here. So I'm going to say imports all the photos and save it in the database. Okay, so it's going to, for example, be, let's say, photo, and we're going to reference it to library.objects.all. And we need to add in a context dictionary here. So I'm just going to, for example, call this Cloudinary. So I'm just simplifying it. Let's say Cloudinary image. And here we can pass in, for example, photo as our key and our value photo, which we are encapsulating here based on our library objects. Then what you can do is you can pass this through, and you can just simply say Cloudinary image. Great. So make sure you've got this in place. Right, so we can now pass this through accordingly in our template. So we can head over to index.html. All right, and what we can do is we can pass this through accordingly. So let's do it basically. So what we're going to do first of all is we're just going to loop through it. So we can just say for pic in photo. And close that up. And then what we can do is we can just add a h2 tag here, and we want to pass through, for example, pic.title. So we're referring now to the title that we assigned. So they were called shark 1 and shark 2, so very simple. And then we just want to put in our image source. We want to render that out. So we can just render it accordingly. So it will be pic.image.url, and the reason we're saying image here is we're referencing the attribute here from which we are actually serving our image from Cloudinary from. And you can just add that accordingly, and then we can put the alt here, and this will be shark as altered. Okay, great. And you can just use your N4 here to end the loop. Now we can also add that description, and although they're identical, say h3, and here we can render pic.description. Okay, and description here is based on our model here. So we just said lives in the sea for both of them. Okay, so that's how you can do it. So here we're saying for pic in photo. Now, what you name the namespace here, the placeholder can be anything here, although photo here needs to be correlating specifically to what we had earlier on with our Cloudinary image. Okay, so we're referencing photo as the key here. Okay, so what we can do now is we can go ahead and restart our server. Okay, great. And you want to refresh your page. And there we go. So we can now see we are now rendering our images now in our Django application. So we have Shark and Shark 2. Then they both live in the sea, of course. But anyway, guys, so that's how we can do it. That's how you can go ahead and you can serve your production-based images in Cloudinary from a Django application. Personally, this is a good option to go. I've heard great things about Cloudinary in terms of its management, so it does give Amazon S3, in my opinion, a good run for its money. Although personally, myself, I'm an AWS fanboy, you could say, but I would say Cloudinary is pretty good. So definitely something I would recommend looking out for. So yeah. So that's that, guys. I will also be sure to attach the 2 links. So the link for the package here if you want to read more, and also the link to Cloudinary, so cloudinary.com. I'll also attach that as well, so just keep that in mind. Another recommendation I just want to stress out, please make sure that you store your API keys, namely your cloud name, your cloud API key and API secret key. Make sure you store it in environment variables. Very important to keep that safe. So I'll recommend using Django Environ or Python decoupled to achieve that goal. So if you want to read more about that, I'll also attach a link in the description below for that. So I'll attach a video that I previously made on configuring environment variables, just for extra security for your sake, and also the package as well, referring to it in the description below if you want to learn more about that. All right, guys, so that's it. And as always, thank you for the support. See you next time.